Great, and we're back. So I took a little break to work with the chat and run around and try to figure out what the hell was going on. We discovered a couple of things. One is that Monster has a sleeping spot over there, but the geometry in that area is a little bit clippy. So I don't want to move him around more than I have to. He kind of was getting stuck against some rocks in elevation. Also discovered that I can interact with soccer balls. This was something that I didn't know at all. But if I click the interact button near a soccer ball, I will pick it up and I can kick it, and I can actually play catch with the monster. Which the next time we run across a soccer ball, I will do, because it's actually a really interesting thing. The other thing we discovered is that if I pull all the way back on this tower, the way that I would argue it suggests to me I should, because that forms a bridge, right? That forms the most level bridge that I can get. But it doesn't give me the elevation that I need. If I push forward too far, which is what I was doing before, I was kind of testing between the extremes. If I push forward too far, then all of a sudden the part down at the bottom that's near me is way too vertical. I can't climb that anymore. But if I do it sort of just right, like maybe there, I can still climb it. I can't climb it. I'm gonna pull it back just a little bit, like that. Now can I climb it? Now I can climb it. It's getting real steep, but I can still climb it. And I can get over here. So when I first interacted with this thing, I actually called out, I commented that there was an affordance of suggesting that I pull all the way back. I thought that the fact that it was giving me a range to push and pull, that rather than just a side-to-side choice, I was actually getting kind of like a two-dimensional area that I could position the lever in. I thought that was mostly aesthetic. And also I thought it would come into play when we finished, when I was trying to go straight across. Like, obviously then well, no, because I would still be pulling it back as far as I can. I thought it was part of the cool, like, way that bridge tower looks. And I mentioned that I was relieved that I didn't have to do, like, fiddly, precise movement, because it's very difficult from that camera angle to accurately move in 3D space something at that angle, at that distance. This gets into some of the real fundamental problems that 3D platformers have. This game has been really good. I mean, obviously it's been... What has it been? I mean, has it been 15 years since Mario 64? Like, we've done good 3D platformers, and we've figured out ways to do 3D platformers well. You still see examples of 3D platformers that are not done well, and where they fall down tends to be, it's very difficult from certain camera angles, in certain situations, to judge distance and relative position. And so this game has been, for the most part, really great about positioning me in a way where the jumps that I have to make, the 3D platforming that I have to do, it's very clear what the relative position of objects is. It's only sometimes I've been calling them Prince of Persia jumps, right? Because Prince of Persia does this all the time. It gives you these jumps that look like there's no way you could possibly jump them, but you can. And eventually, by playing the game, you learn to trust that the prince can jump further than it looks he can jump. Like and that's partially the physics of his jump, and that's partially your inability to judge relative space. But you adapt to it throughout that game. In this game, for the most part, we don't do that. There have only been a couple of times where the game has asked or required me to make a jump that it wasn't clear I could make, that looked like it might be too far, or that I couldn't really judge the distance on. I feel like it really falls into a trap right here with this bridge puzzle. I feel like it's making a like really fundamental mistake about how to treat three-dimensional games, how to treat 3 dimensions and perspective in a game. That is something that we really often commonly see in platformers. This is not specifically a platforming context that we're seeing it in. I mean, we're seeing it in this like building and positioning of a tower, which isn't platforming, but it's the same kind of problem. I would be really curious to know how many people stumble on that. And if this is a problem with my interpretation of their queuing, that I made an assumption at some point that I was just going to pull back as far as I could on that bridge, that was mistaken, or and that some people don't make that assumption, or if this was something that I should have figured out from context by just looking at those distances, the relative positions. I should have been able to say, if this was a little bit higher, then I could get there, and then make the logical leap from there. I would love to see usability metrics and progress metrics on this game, which is something that's usually like way out of scope, not at all feasible for a small indie company. But a company like Microsoft is famous. I mean, the Halo games specifically were developed in partnership with Microsoft Research, where Microsoft Research would do really elaborate analysis of playthroughs of the game to be able to tell, like, at what specific point are players dying, and is there a choke point? Is there a point where a lot of players are dying, like more than you would expect? And why is that? Is it because like they run out of ammo? Is it because they don't get a break between waves of enemies? Or how do we tweak the game values, like the literal numbers in the level, in order to smooth out those points of most resistance? I don't know. This could just be me, but I would bet that this is one of the points of most resistance in this game. I would bet that more people than just me get stuck on this puzzle. And if we could look at like a heat map of the amount of time that players spend in different areas, that this area would glow bright red. Okay, so, but now I've learned a lesson, right? Now I know that it's possible for me to gain some height by pushing in a little bit, and I can't do too much, or I'm no longer able to climb. But I think I can climb on that, yeah. And now I can get over there easily. But, oh shit, okay. I need to get Monster up here, and I haven't done that. I'm gonna hope that this lever helps me, because I have no idea how to get him up to here if this lever doesn't help me. So a couple things. One is the work that we did paid off, right? Like we spent some time trying to like move Monster around to no obvious purpose. I mean, we were trying to figure out, like, is there a way that we can use him to platform? Is he going to be a jump? But if we had gotten to that point without doing that, we would have had to go all the way back down and then figure out what to do with Monster then. So I feel a little vindicated. Not much. I spent a lot of time trying to solve that puzzle. Sorry about that, guys. This is something that I've never seen before, right? We've seen circles in the ground that the little girl jumps through. But they've never been something that were still white when we went up to them. And I don't know what the square in the middle is. It looks like a piece of paper. I can't seem to interact with it. It's different than, yeah. So, still don't know what that is. Here's a hint box, though. I'm actually going to use this hint box because I see an element in the world that I'm not sure how to use it. Also, I will note, now that we've gotten past that last puzzle, we're into parts of the game that I've never seen before. So, a lot of the mechanics in the first half of this game I felt were really intuitive. But it's also true that I had played through a year ago or 2 years ago that part of the game. And so I had seen those mechanics once before. They weren't totally new to me. Now, from now on, all of the mechanics that are introduced are going to be brand new to me. And so we'll get actually a better sense of how intuitive they are, how much I'm able to just understand them. I might start using the hint boxes a lot more. So I saw that there was a key floating in the air. Which one is the good one? I have no idea what that means yet. But that's it. That's the whole box. There's going to be some kind of a shell game, possibly using these things. I mean, or coconuts, possibly using coconuts, because that's literally what was drawn there. But I'm also noticing that there's three things that are potentially open, and not all of them are open, and it's suggestive to me. That's reminiscent of like a shell game. I saw the gears underground, but I'm gonna go for the more obvious interaction first, because it is in the easily accessible area. It's in the area that I first came into. So I'm gonna assume it's the first thing that I can see. I'm gonna assume that that's the first thing that I'm supposed to do. I'm also going to assume that the game would be forgiving, because the game has been forgiving so far. If I went down into one of those areas to use the interactable stuff down there, I would be able to get back out. This is fascinating. I have not seen anything like this before. There's just a doll. I can't interact with it. This whole room suggests to me that it is fantastical, right? It's all sparkly white walls. And the doll, by virtue of not being sparkly white, pops in this room in the same way that the white chalk pops in other places. I have no idea what that is. Now this area doesn't have obvious steps. Also, it seems aggressive. I'm trying to follow it with my eyes, but it's possible I'll screw it up. I think it was this one. So here's the shell game that we were warned. Didn't realize. Wow. So I didn't realize that was on a timer. I really wish that they had used the ticking sound that they established earlier means you are on a time limit, right? We heard a couple times like a clock would start ticking down, and that meant there is a timer, something's going to happen in a certain amount of time, you have a limited amount of time to do something. I feel like, you see how sort of vague this space is. It's all monocolored, and it's kind of hard to see because it's so enclosed. It's hard to get a sense of relative space. It wasn't obvious to me that that wall was moving until it had moved quite a bit. I really, really would have appreciated a ticking sound effect there. So I'm getting a feeling, I have no idea how valid this is, but I'm starting to get a feeling that the puzzle design and the sort of, the experience design with respect to the puzzles is getting shakier as we go on. I feel like the first hour and a half of the game was extremely well paced and extremely well designed and extremely well polished. That's what I'm looking for. It was very, very polished. Like, it had clearly been gone over many times. It was simplified, right? And that is a product of refinement. So complicated elements had been taken out, and queuing had been perfected. And starting with the last puzzle that I struggled with substantially, and here as well, I'm seeing more seams. I'm seeing things that seem a little bit shakier to me. Like that, for example, look at that. That's clearly a platform, right? Like, that's a ledge. It's wide enough for me to walk on. It's within jumping distance. And there's an invisible wall. The only reason that there would be an invisible wall, in my opinion, as a player, is that they didn't have enough time to do a proper polish of this level. And at some point, a QA tester or a beta tester got over here and got distracted by this ledge. And the best solution would have been to smooth out the wall so that there was no ledge, so there was nothing to get distracted by. But that's a more expensive solution than putting in an invisible wall. And I sympathize with that. I mean, video games are extremely expensive to make, especially for a studio of this size that's not like a AAA studio. Resources are limited, and sometimes you have to make choices about what you're going to do. But I'm seeing that kind of seam. I'm seeing things that I feel like I wouldn't have seen in the first hour of the game. It would have been more polished than that. So there's still the key. I mean, sort of, the hint box was very clear that the key was something that I was going to be interacting with. But it's not obvious to me how I do that. I made this block grow. Oh, maybe I can jump onto the shack over there. I don't know if this is going to work, but you can see how I sort of needed to take a step. No, that didn't work. I find myself occasionally needing to remove myself from the immediacy of a jump in order to get a better perspective on it. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Platforming in 3 dimensions is really hard because of this kind of relative space thing. From here, it's not clear to me that I can't make that jump. It looks like maybe I could make that jump. From on top of the block, it looked less like I could make the jump. I still can't interact with this doll. So the last thing that I was able to do was push this up. which must be important, right? I mean, the way that these puzzles have been designed so far, they're linear in structure. Everything that you are able to do leads you to the next thing that you can do. No, can't make that jump either. Oh, of course I can jump on monster. Does that do anything for me? I mean, I can jump, but I can't actually get up. There's nothing under here. I still can't interact with this. Can I still interact with this? I can. I can push it all the way down, or I can push it part way up. I mean, I can, so similar to the bridge in the oh wait, similar to the bridge. No, this is a different, I was wondering if I could move it laterally, but it's a different shape and symbol. Can I jump to this key? That's weird. I gotta say that's weird. I've never had to touch a key before. Like, that's never been a mechanic. So what I thought was gonna happen was that somehow I was gonna raise a platform so that the key would then be in the ground. The idea that I had to actually collect a key is completely new, right? Like, that hasn't been established anywhere in the game before. So now I've got a whole ramp that goes all the way up to here, and I can go in here. Oh, and monster apparently is following me. Okay. I think it's very deliberate that they have him run out as far as he did, because from where we started, from here, that looks like empty space, right? That looks like something I could fall into. And so I would stand here and think, like, where am I supposed to go next, right? It's not obvious that that's a place I can go. Because they have another character that can actually run out onto the glass, they completely relieve me of that anxiety. Like, that's where I can go. Until it disappears, and then, oh, okay, all right. So they removed my exit, sort of, Legend of Zelda style. You go into an arena, and they close the exit. Oh gosh, now we got, like, rotating stuff. I'm a little worried about the 3D platforming, because 3D platforming gets that much harder when things are in motion. But I do want to note the ripples under your feet as you move, which just create a really beautiful effect, I think, and lend this platform, this, like, glass, a really interesting ethereal quality. Like, it's not just glass, it's some kind of bizarre otherworldly water thing. Alright, so I recognize that line going out to the edge of the disc. I saw that. Now I'm going to need to build some steps. And there's something missing there. Now, I did learn in the last puzzle that circle with a square in the middle, I'm supposed to put a key into it. So I need to find a key that if I find the key, it'll go to where it's supposed to go. I don't know what this is saying. There are floating platforms. The floating platforms exist. There's an island. Does the island represent the clear glass, circle that I'm on? Which is also an island, but it looks very different. And then there's stairs that are happy and white. White suggests to me that they're a dynamic element, that there's something that I'm going to create. I'm going to create some stairs that go from the platform to the floating walkway, which is possible. I mean, there is a floating walkway. If I created some stairs, then maybe I could do something with it. If I fall all the way down, I'm going to go into the water. Now, we've seen water, this kind of like infinite deep, foggy water before. When I fall into water, I just appear back at the top. So it's a very light penalty, right? It doesn't hurt me a lot to fall in water. Landing on here appears to have stopped it. And now I can raise it up. I wonder if I stopped it in the right place, though. I wasn't considering that I had to pay attention. Oh, now I can change the placement. Okay, that's good. There's a frog on a sign here next to a pipe, which I think means frogs will come out of that pipe, which is sort of terrifying. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to put this. Oh. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. That's what I was afraid would happen. I just didn't think it was going to happen so quickly. All right, so we've got our palette shift, right? The colors changed. Fortunately, we're in a blocked off area. This is scarier than last time because there's more empty space. Like last time, there was a ground level that was surrounded by walls. And so if he caught me, he would throw me, but he would sort of throw me into a wall or into a safe area. This time, if he catches me, he's going to throw me off of that platform. And now, mechanically, I don't think that is a big deal. I think that, if I fall into the water, then I'm just going to appear somewhere else. It's very, very easy on the punishment there. But conceptually, that's much more frightening. I don't know if I'm the only one who gets a fear of heights in video games. I would actually be really curious to do research on that. But in 2D and 3D games, in mostly platforming games, when I make a jump that I'm not sure I can make, my stomach drops, just like if I'm, looking over the edge of a tall building. I get a very physiological reaction to that. So it's a different experience to me when, oh, interesting. Interesting that I can still move this. But the other one doesn't move. Okay, so I'm going to stand up here where I have a good vantage point, and I'm going to know that this innermost rotating ring I can move around. What seems like a good place for me to put it? If I put it over there, then when that platform lowers down, I might be able to get onto the platform. I'm not 100% sure what I can do from there, but I might be able to climb up some of the debris that's sort of littered around. The hint box also suggested that I'm making a bridge out to that, thing that's drawn on the wall. but I can't make a complete bridge yet, and it's black. It's not activated, so I don't think it's time for me to do that yet. I'm gonna try the other thing, although it's scarier because it means I'm gonna have to do some like really serious hardcore platforming, and if I screw up this platforming, yeah, look at this. Whoops. Maybe there. If I screw up this platforming, I'm gonna fall into the area where Monster is. Now, again, like in terms of consequences for failure, I don't think it's high. I think I'm gonna fall in there. He's gonna pick me up. He's gonna throw me off of the platform. I'm gonna fall into the water, and then I'm gonna reappear in a safe space. So, consequences aren't terrible, but I am really bad at 3D platforming. So, we'll see. Oh, this was very forgiving though. Like the difficulty curve on that, it looked a lot harder than it actually was. Which is nice. It's especially the first time that you introduce an element like that. Like this is the first sort of serious 3D jumping puzzle that we've had to do. The first time that you do that, it's kind of nice that it looks harder than it is, because what you want, I mean, ideally, you want the player to succeed the first time. You want them, maybe, I mean, depends on the game that you're making, maybe you want them to succeed every time. A lot of the games that I like to play, I like succeeding every time, right? But sometimes you want the player to fail, and when that's the case, generally, you want the player to fail not the first time. You want them to fail on the probably like third time. You want them to do it right the first time, because then you show them what it is to do it right. And then you want them to do it right the second time. You want them to succeed the second time, because then that establishes a pattern of this is a consistent trope, like this is an element that you're going to see multiple times. And now you understand, you have done it successfully in a repetitive way. You understand how it's supposed to be done. Now on the third time, you can spike that difficulty curve. Because if I fail on the third time, I'm not going to think either that I'm misunderstanding the puzzle, or, which is what would happen the first time. Like if I fail the first time, I'm going to assume I misunderstood the puzzle. I was supposed to do something different. If I fail the second time, then I'm going to draw conclusions about the design of the puzzles, that things are changing or something like that, or that they're designed in a way that is unforgivably hard. It's going to feel unfair. But if I fail the third time, if the third time is harder than the previous two times, I'm going to understand that my performance is what's at fault. Like I'm going to take responsibility for that. It's going to feel like this was I could see a progression in difficulty, so this feels fair. I've established a pattern, so I understand what the pattern is going to be and how it's going to repeat. I just didn't perform well enough this third time to succeed. And that's a much more satisfying experience, even, where the result is a failure. It's still a much more satisfying experience than to get the player into a state where they're confused. That's the last thing that you want. That sense of confusion is really deadly, because that's what makes players put down games and just stop playing. Okay, so this is great. I got the second section where I wanted. But now I can't get back to the first section. There is a third section. I'm going to jump down to the third section. I think. If I can see it coming. was a little lucky. Like, I knew that I was leading it a bit because I knew that it was going to continue coming until I landed on it. But I could have easily misjudged that. I'm also from here, I don't know how intentional this is, but maybe not much. He's not moving anymore. You can see the shadow. Oh, there you can see him. You can see Monster sort of silhouetted on the pillar over there. Keeps me remembering that he's there. I haven't actually interacted with him in a while, so it's kind of nice that there's a visual reminder, even if it's subtle, even if I don't notice it like explicitly. There's a reminder that he's up there, he's still around. Okay, I can move this into position easily, right? Like, that's where that wants to be. And now I think oh no, I can't get up there anymore. So I believe that I'm in a state, I don't know if I could have done this better. I think I'm in a state where I'm going to have to drop into the water, which I don't like at all. I'm going to try, because even if I jump onto the center platform, there's nowhere for me to go. I don't think I can get in, or I'm going to try it, just because deliberately jumping into the water seems like the opposite of what I want to do. That feels really bad, and I'm disappointed that I seem to have gotten to a place where that was the only way for me to progress. Jumping into the water, like landing in the water, has kind of been painted as oh god, this is going to be terrible. Can I get up to where he's not? Okay. Falling into the water has been the closest thing that we've had to failure so far, right? It's the only thing that has actually broken the continuous narrative of the game, other than, like, obviously story mandated flashbacks and things. We, from the beginning of the game, we're a character, and that character is consistent, moving through space and time. Like, we follow him through space and time consistently, moment to moment, until we fall into the water, and then the whole screen goes dark and the character appears somewhere else, and that breaks the narrative. I mean, you know, obviously it's not a huge deal. Like, I'm not gonna get confused about what's going on. I'm not gonna misunderstand or get frustrated at the story or anything like that. But it does do something to shatter whatever level of narrative immersion we have established with the character. All of a sudden, the continuous narrative of our control over this little boy is broken, and that feels partially just by that nature, right? The fact that it breaks a continuous string of control and visualization, and partially because we've been culturally trained by platforming games for decades, right? Every game that you play, if you're supposed to be jumping from platform to platform, if you fall into the water, that's bad. Usually that means you lose a life, or you lose the game. Depends on, you know, how severe the consequences for that failure are. In this game, the consequences for failure are not severe. They're you know, very gentle. But you feel like that is failure. Even if the game takes it easy on you, that's a failure state. And so the fact that I had to do it, the fact that maybe I missed something, maybe there's a way for me to get out of that, but it sure looked to me like the way forward was to throw myself into the water. And that feels very different from anything that we've done in the game. Like that is a break from the emotional tenor of the game, the directed experience that we've had so far. This is a very different thing. It felt really out of place. Okay, so I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm terrified to do it, because when I do, it's going to open up that cage. But I don't think there's any way I can do it safely. So I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to get ready to run. Now I don't have control. Oh God. Oh God. That's super sad.
Amore, Papo. Papo t'amo e a Lula.
Okay, well, that was a save point. I think we're going to wrap this up. Very, very, very interesting, moment, story-wise. I have some thoughts on it. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it. And it definitely had an emotional impact on me, right? Like that was really sad, and unexpected sad. Here's the thing: in the last several sections, so in this entire evening, in the last couple segments that I've done of this game, we haven't used the throw Lula feature, that mechanic, hardly at all. We've used it a couple times. We've used the double jump a bunch, but I've actually sort of normalized the double jump. The double jump no longer feels to me like I'm being supported by the robot on my back. It just feels like a thing that I can do. The thing that really calls my attention to the fact that I have a robot and the robot is helping me out is when I throw it. When I threw Lula and she did stuff at a distance, places that I couldn't reach. It was very obvious to me that was me artificially extending my agency. Now it's going to be interesting actually if in this next section. So two things. One thing that I would have done differently, and one thing that I'm going to be interested to see if they do. What I would have done differently is I would have packed that last section with things that I had to throw Lula for. Because I feel like losing Lula, from a narrative standpoint, is extremely impactful. Lula is adorable, and in the cutscenes, we've seen him. He's cute and he's friendly and he's helpful. He's very much a companion. He's a protector, right? He keeps saying that he's going to protect us. The little girl keeps saying that we're cursed, and Lula keeps saying, don't worry, I'll protect you. Now we've lost our protector. From a narrative standpoint, that's hugely powerful. But from a mechanical standpoint, the feeling of companionship that we have with Lula, the feeling of dependency that we have on Lula, is based on the amount that we use and are aware of actually using our relationship to him in the game. And I would argue that comes across much, much stronger in the elements where we throw him than in the elements where we're just double jumping. So, in order to drive home the impact on a mechanical level, on a like visceral, physical, systemic level of playing the game, interactive level, what it means to lose that character, I would have just I would have packed the previous section with puzzles that required you to use him. Just a lot, just so that it's fresh in your mind that that you have this relationship, that he helps you out, that he's constantly helping you, that there's stuff that you can't do without him, and then have him taken away. I think that would have dramatically heightened the emotional impact of that on an interactive level. The thing that I'm really interested in is the double jumping. It would be super, super interesting to me if in the next section of the game, it teases us with jumps that we could have made if Lula were still with us. This is what I would do with the level design coming up. I would put in jumps that are just a little bit too long for our character to do by himself, and that would, I think, equally drive home after the fact, after the moment of impact. Now we're gonna feel grief. We're gonna feel sort of more of a sense of loss, because we're gonna be hyper aware. Hypothetically, if this is how the game is designed, if I was designing the game, we would be hyper aware of what we have lost when we lost Lula. That's how I would sort of reflect that in the level design. Going to be really, really curious to see what they do, if they follow through on that, or if they don't. I would imagine they're going to introduce some new mechanics to replace the mechanics that we just lost, because some of the abilities that we had, we no longer have. And that's going to be really interesting. I'm curious to see where the game goes from here. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to streaming the next segment of this, and if you're watching live on Twitch, then stick around, and we'll do some Q&A, and we can just talk for a little bit. Thanks for watching. See you next time.